review of Danganronpa Another Episode, Ultra Despair Girls. Man, reviewing this game might be difficult. There's so much to it, I'm not even sure where to begin. Oh, wait, I know where to start. Yes, I'm going to play Danganronpa V3 when it gets released in English. God. Ultra Despair Girls was first released on the PS Vita in September of 2014. It has since made its way onto PS4 and PC, which is the version I'm reviewing. It's a spin-off of the Danganronpa series, obviously, and canonically takes place between the first and second games. I suppose it could be viewed as the black sheep of the franchise, or should that title be reserved for the weird Japan-exclusive smartphone games? Whatever, the point is that something must be wrong with it because it was finally released away from the death sentence of a console that is the PS Vita about a year after the first two games. It's just a joke, by the way. I'm sure the Vita has good things going for it, but I'm still not gonna buy one. But like I said, it's kind of hard to know where to start talking about it. It's so radically different from its predecessors that it's somewhat jarring. But I'll try my best to review it without spoiling the story. For now. Our story begins with the introduction of Komaru Naegi. Yeah, remember the ultimate basic bitch from the first game? Well, we're playing as his sister, and now I regret giving him that nickname because Komaru is even more basic. She literally says several times throughout the game that she's just a normal high school girl. Look, she's so basic they had to give her an ahoge, which she didn't have the only other time she showed up in the series, just so she could be a protagonist. Anyway, Komaru has been trapped in an apartment for about a year and a half. She doesn't know why she's there or who even kidnapped her, but she hasn't given up hope on escaping. Fortunately, this doesn't result in another room escape game. God, I hated that part of 2. Instead, a Monokuma robot breaks down the door and tries to attack Komaru, but she escapes, only to be rescued by... the ghost of douchebag's past. Great. Could be worse, though. Nagito could have shown up, God forbid, right? I mean, he was such a pain in the second game, I can't even imagine how annoying he'd be here. So Byakuya gives Komaru a hacking gun that stops Monokumas. And how does it do that?
It shoots program codes with electromagnetic waves.
Yeah, sure it does. Long story short, Komaru runs off to meet up with future Foundation agents, but some shit goes bad and she ends up stuck in the city. She runs into Toko Fukawa, or more specifically, her serial killer alter ego that I'm just gonna call Genocide or Show, because even though I prefer dubs, I think Genocide Jack is a stupid name. It's also hella generic, because how many fucking murderers can be called Jack before we all get sick of it? Okay, forget the story. It takes too long to explain even when you skip over most of it. Let's talk gameplay. The game is a shooter. Are you surprised? I was. Well, not when I played it, because I already knew, but when I first heard about it, I was surprised. It's odd, right? Going from a visual novel format to this? Honestly, I'm not sure there's many other games quite like this. It's a third-person shooter, but it's also a visual novel, but it's also a puzzle game. And it's a touch awkward, or maybe that's just me, I don't play shooter games because they tend to make me motion sick, but for real, Spike Chunsoft, you could have made an official Danganronpa dating sim, but you chose to make a shooter instead? I have limited sympathy for such poor decision-making. So what you'll be doing for most of the game, besides watching endless dialogue scenes that don't exactly fit into the style of game very well, but I'll get to that, is running around shooting Monokumas with the hacking gun. You have 8 different types of bullets that are given to you over the course of the game. Switching between them is kind of a pain, at least if you're using keyboard controls, but you get used to it over time. Only problem is the different bullets are introduced so slowly that you'll still be getting tutorials when you're over halfway through the game, which isn't exactly ideal. The bullets help you defeat the different types of Monokumas that pop up. Speaking of which, fuck junk Monokumas. Those things should be censored hentai style. Absolutely disgusting. Throughout the game, you'll also be given the chance to buy upgrades for the gun, but I don't really get how they work. They're just words that you apply to different bullets that improve damage, I think. Whatever, I'm pretty sure it doesn't matter unless you're playing on the hardest difficulty. I mean, I played on normal and it went okay, but you don't have to rely on just bullets. Remember, Toko's with you and she just so happens to be part serial killer. You can switch to Genocide or Show and attack using her scissors. You can power up and do combo attacks and all that good shit, but it's for a limited time only. Once her batteries run out, the fun ends. I mostly just ended up using her whenever a huge crowd of Monokuma showed up. Or whenever there was more than one junk Monokuma on screen. God, for real, fuck those things. And while you keep an eye out for Monokumas, keep an eye out for collectibles too. Now, I know I rag on games for telling stories through notes, but in this case the collectibles are more like neat little extras that give you some different perspectives on things that happened, or sometimes they're books that Komaru and Toko talk about with each other. They're not necessary to find, but they can be interesting to read. Another big part of the gameplay is these arcade machines. You'll find them in special rooms that are fucking everywhere. This is where the puzzle element of the game comes in. The arcade machine gives you a bird's eye view of a room with specially placed enemies and tells you what bullets can be used to complete the room successfully. If you solve the puzzle and take out the Monokumas the correct way, you win. Now, apparently, if you do these correctly, you might get something? Yeah, I don't know. It's hinted at, and some people in the livestream chat mentioned something about a special thing that happens if you do enough of these puzzles correctly, but obviously I didn't figure it out because I suck and I haven't been able to find out what it is. Maybe it's nothing and it's all related to your chapter score. Oh yeah, you get rated on how well you did in each chapter. Guess how well that went. So, this should be fine, right? Some decent shooting with some puzzles thrown in? Yeah, that'd work well, I think. But this is still a Danganronpa game. And what do all Danganronpa games have? Talking. So much talking. This game is full of visual novel segments, among cutscenes, among more visual novel segments. Matter of fact, this game has so many cutscenes that they can be divided into 3 different visual categories. CG, whatever the fuck this style is called, and anime. And yes, it's by the same dudes that made the Danganronpa TV animes. I'm pretty sure this game spends more time as a visual novel than as a shooter game. And by the way, the key to turn on auto mode is X, even though it was always space before. The sheer amount of time spent watching characters talk to each other really slows the game down. Also, minor pet peeve, the cutscenes don't have subtitles of any kind. For real though, an action game like this doesn't need to stop every 3 minutes for our characters to stand still and have a conversation. The game would be fine if it was mostly gameplay. I'd say when you're actually playing it, the game is good, but you keep getting stopped to talk about random nonsense. Call me crazy, but maybe they shouldn't have made Danganronpa into a shooter. Was anyone asking for this? And even if they were, this game feels like it could have been so much more. That really is the most I can say about it. But there is one more thing I wanted to talk about. Now, you may have noticed I've mostly been avoiding talking about the story, and it's because I can't really talk about it without spoiling it, but I will say this. I'm not one to provide content warnings. Kids killing other kids is in the blood of this series. There's no point in warning you about that. But this game touches on much darker themes than the previous games, which is fine. Dark subjects can really bring tension and drama to the story. But, how should I put this? Ultra Despair Girls doesn't so much just include dark subject matter as it does exploit it. This game presents things like child abuse, torture, and sexual assault, things that are inherently disturbing, and it's always for shock value. And I found it a touch insulting. It's like the game devs think that characters dying isn't enough to keep the average player interested, so it has to keep going further and further until it feels like they're trying way too hard. I think the Danganronpa series is worth more than shock value. Of course, discovering the body of a character you've grown to like is shocking, but the main point of the series is solving murder mysteries, not just violence and gore. And when you only have violence and gore and try to compensate for the absence of murder mysteries with more violence and gore, with some disturbing imagery sprinkled on top, it only makes the story weaker. At least, that's my opinion on it. I'll finish off by saying that this is a decent game, but it's not really a good Danganronpa game. Also, aside from the music taken from the first two games, Ultra Despair Girls' soundtrack is ass. Okay, I'm done. So, yeah, if you're only into the series for the murder mysteries and trials, you can probably skip Ultra Despair Girls, unless you're super invested in the story and feel the need to pick up every scrap of lore you can get your hands on, in which case, why would you even be watching this? Did you miss me? Is that it? I'm flattered. I know I've been pretty absent these past few months, and it's because I wasn't joking when I said I was getting a real job. But it's only temporary, and we will be back in top form before you know it. So, if you want to see what's next, subscribe, and the next review will be posted soon. I promise. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. But there really is so much more I wanted to say about Ultra Despair Girls in an official video, but if I do, I'd be spoiling it. But I just can't help it. There's so much I just have to bitch about. You've all been warned. The reason Komaru was trapped in that apartment and why you see so many relatives of known characters was total bullshit. A motivation method that was never used. You're trying to tell me Junko wouldn't have gone straight for the fucking jugular to create as much despair as possible by using the family members? What, did she just forget about them? Fuck off. Next, having characters die within minutes of meeting them feels hella cheap. I feel nothing but disappointment seeing Yuta get blown up, because I was just robbed of interacting further with a potentially really cool character. Oh yeah, and all of these kids who died, they didn't really die. False alarm. Speaking of death, this game confirmed that ghosts exist in the Danganronpa series. But you don't get to see the spirits of any dead characters you actually gave a shit about, just one asshole CEO looking for revenge. And, oh yeah, that asshole CEO is part of the reason why Junko was able to get so many Monokuma robots, because he put an insane 10-year-old girl in charge of a secret production factory he had. Also, that girl is gross, and I hate her. But not as much as I hate Nagito. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean the servant.
Can you hear me?
No!
Are you okay?
Better not fucking be who I think it is. Don't you fucking do this, game. Don't you fucking do this.
You look completely exhausted.
God damn it! Fuck! Man, fuck this guy with a rusty spork. Not only is he an annoying pain in the ass with a super weird whispery pedo voice.
Thanks for waiting. Here you go. Some nice, freshly made milkshakes. That's how he talks.
But he also ends up saving Monica at the end, because he wants to do that thing where he brings out hope by causing despair or something. Like, can everyone fuck off with the favoritism here? I get that everybody loves a good villain and Nagito has an appealing design, but I would have preferred the despair version of literally anyone else, even Teru Teru. Nagito is overused to an embarrassing degree, and I'm sick of explaining why I don't like him. He's an insane asshole who fucks things up for everyone else. He's a bad guy. His character is intentionally made to be hated. Why are you confused when someone doesn't like him? And I hate to be that guy, but was this all just a setup for the anime? Granted, I wouldn't know how much, because I still haven't watched it out of spite and because the dub is terrible. Or maybe they were baiting for a sequel, which I'm glad never happened. I'm not sure, since that greasy-haired plot device called Azuru shows up at the end too, because Junko's AI was in 2 different Monokuma robots for some goddamn reason. Also, having to purchase pictures and cutscenes with coins post-game is bullshit, but I checked and yeah, the other games did that too. I just didn't notice, because who fucking cares? Every single cutscene is available in Japanese and English on YouTube, and I'm pretty sure every CG can be found using the dark art known as Google Image Search. The fuck is wrong with you, Spike Chunsoft? And that hour and a half of cutscenes at the end, plus having to make the same decision over and over when choices have never been a part of the game before then, was annoying as shit and way too drawn out. I know these are all really personal reasons to bitch about, and that's why I'm not letting them drag down my opinion of the game to negative. I just got really pissed off playing through it, and these are the reasons why. Let's just hope V3 does a better job.